right, so Kelly, welcome to the show.
All right, yeah, thanks for thanks for intruding upon my my solitude. Yeah.
Upon your shelter in place.
That's right. I'm coronavirus out right now. I'm ready
That's all right. Well, we have Bill safely tucked away in a bunker today, so we're in good shape.
Yeah. We duct taped the doors and everything. He's not getting that anytime soon.
So Kelly, I have a couple of headlines for you here.
Okay.
So the first one says, lawmakers open groundwater fight against bottled water companies.
Oh.
Yeah, so in Washington State, they're, according to the article, the land of sprawling rainforests and glacier-fed rivers.
Yes.
Sounds gorgeous, doesn't it?
It does. Let's move.
Yeah, right. It says they are poised to become the first state in the nation to ban water bottling companies from tapping spring-fed sources.
Okay.
And so this was a few weeks ago. I have another headline for you. This was just last week. To fight coronavirus, Costco needs to price gouge.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
It does. Yeah, it keeps people from, from overbuying, right?
Yeah.
They had a case study. They followed a woman around the store. This actually happened in Las Vegas. And this was when everybody was the run on all the supplies, and there was no toilet paper, and, it was all that going on.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah, well, they found that the average person was buying 10 cases of bottled water.
10?
10 at a pop.
Okay, this is, I got to stop you there. What the hell do you need that much bottled water for?
Well,
I mean, as far as I know, the faucets have continued to work.
As far as I know, yes. But
yes.
According to this article, it says the reason they need to start price gouging, it says, God forbid an outbreak of the virus leads to a shortage of drinking water. This type of hoarding is extremely destructive, and people would have an abundance while others wouldn't have any, which would make a lack of drinking water deadly, or potentially deadly.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so their argument is the best way for stores to fight this is just to simply raise prices, and that would prevent people from being able to hoard.
Yeah, it would, but it would also keep people who actually need the water from being able to buy the water.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah.
And then my favorite headline, I'll just sort of end the trifecta with man stabbed over bottled water at store as coronavirus panic continues.
Oh.
So,
stabbed. That's
stabbed.
Nice.
Yes, a man was stabbed after a disagreement over bottled water turned violent. This happened at a Sam's Club in Hiram, Georgia. It says,
surprising he didn't get shot.
Yeah, well, it says the fight broke out after two customers began arguing over a package of bottled water. And this is the best part. This is what makes me question the location. It says this happened in Georgia, but there's that Florida-Georgia line. I'm wondering if it was on the wrong side of the line. Because the guy that got stabbed with a wine bottle.
Oh, gosh.
Bam! Broke the neck off the wine bottle.
Well, was he wearing flip-flops and the sleeveless T-shirt?
I'm not sure.
Did he have a mullet?
He may have had a mullet. It's entirely possible. Whoa, did you hear that?
I sure did.
Wow. Not really sure what happened there. Yeah, apparently so. That was my countdown timer, apparently. I set it on.
Yeah, so. There you go.
Well, listen, I'm bringing all these headlines up because they all have to do with water and some of the insanity that's going around with this pandemic, right?
Right.
Like you mentioned, the taps haven't stopped flowing, right? We all still have electricity. Last time I checked, the stores were actually restocking, right? So there's all kinds of things going on, but still people are sort of, panicking, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so my wife and I decided after, this was a couple of weeks ago when the run was going on, we decided we just weren't going to participate in the craziness. And,
great idea.
Yeah, so rather than go around and try and buy bottled water, which nobody seemed to have any, we just went and bought a water filter. And we just decided we'd just filter our drinking water at the tap.
Okay.
So
what kind of filter did you buy? Was it like one of those Brita type things, or was it a...
Yeah,
under
so you know
sink unit?
you know what? We actually started out. It was kind of funny because I can still remember. I called my wife. It was like 10:30 at night. She was sleeping. She just got the kids in bed, and I woke her up.
Sure, she appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, and she said, "Are you still at the store?" And kind of, I said, "Yeah." And I told her, I said, "Hey, they're out of water, but I'm just going to buy a water filter." And she thought it was a great idea, so we bought one of those PUR filters that you screw onto your faucet.
Okay.
And so it was kind of ironic. It sort of led to this situation where we bought the filter and then we started researching them. Kind of, ready, fire, aim kind of thing.
The way I operate all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So turns out, it was a great filter. The water tasted fantastic, filtered out a ton of stuff, but it didn't filter out everything we wanted it to deal with.
Right.
At least not for our drinking water. So we ended up buying a reverse osmosis system a little later to deal with the things we wanted to, and I installed that under the sink, and we'll talk about that as we go. But
okay, cool. So after your experience, do you think it's probably wise to have your water tested or test your water before you invest in the system?
Well, boy, I guess that depends on where you live and what your situation is, right? I think we talked about this on the show before, but if you have a well, yeah, you should test your water periodically anyway, right? So,
right.
And if you live in a city, like at least the city I live in, they send us the water testing results every year anyway.
That's good.
I would imagine most cities probably do that.
You probably have to ask for them, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah.
So. All right, well, before we get into the topic, I want to just remind people they can always tweet at us at HouseFluent. You can use the hashtag MyHomeQuestion. We try and get to those on the show. You can find us at Instagram, Facebook, housefluent.com, and we are now on YouTube as well. If you are listening to us on your favorite podcasting app, please hit the subscribe button. That helps us out a ton. And remember, what is it they say? Like, comment, share. That's what we would appreciate. Like, comment, share.
Subscribe.
Subscribe, yes. Subscribe.
That's what you need to.
Yeah. All right. So, Kelly, so they're actually in researching this as I was going, and we're going to add another article on our website today. So we put up an article already on how to install one of these things.
Yeah.
One of these reverse osmosis filters, and it's gotten actually a lot of really good feedback. But we're going to put up an article today because we've been getting people asking us, how did you decide what filter you were going to use for yourself? So we've got that article going up today to maybe help some folks make some decisions about what type of filter to buy if they're going to do this. And there's a lot of reasons you might want to consider this for your home, right? So it doesn't have to be a pandemic where there's a run on bottled water, right? Nobody can get it.
Right.
You may just want to do this anyway. So just look back a few years. Go back to 2014. Do you remember what happened in 2014?
Let's see.
I know it's 5 years ago. We can barely remember yesterday.
I've slept since then. So,
I know, right? You would probably go back to 2014 in a heartbeat at this point. I know I would.
I know there was toilet paper back then.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. I had a buddy of mine ask me if I knew how to use the 3 seashells the other day. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's quite the skill to have, yeah.
It's a reference I'm sure few people get. Do you remember there was a Sylvester Stallone movie where they used the 3 seashells? You remember that?
Demolition Man.
Yeah, that's it. That was it.
Yep. Yeah.
So, but anyway, 2014 was Flint, Michigan. You remember that?
Yeah, that's when they had all those water problems there.
Yeah, they did. So what happened was the city basically ran out of money. And so they switched from paying Detroit for their water supply to just getting water out of the Flint River. They did it to save money, but they didn't exactly treat the water very well. Yeah, and so if you know anything about that part of the world, the rivers aren't exactly pristine, right? They've got a lot of factories.
My wife's from Pittsburgh, so yeah, I'm pretty
I was born in Pittsburgh. I know exactly.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Good old Monongahela.
Yeah, that's right. What's the Iron City beer made with water right from there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So
pretty awful.
Anyway, the issues in Flint were just kind of ignored by the city. And the water smelled bad. It looked funny. It had a funny color to it. It tasted funny. And for 18 months this went on, and people in the city were getting skin rashes, hair loss, itchy skin, all kinds of things.
Oh, so it seems like it was a brilliant choice all the way around. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's kind of funny. I guess if you lived in Flint, probably you don't want a water filter. You want like a backyard water treatment facility. But
yeah.
But everywhere else in the country, you may want to consider a filter. So it is kind of funny. As I was researching this, I ran across article after article about even other cities. Right? You kind of see Flint maybe as an outlier, an anomaly, right? But in 2016, actually, CNN had an article where they actually found that 5,300 U.S. water systems were in violation of the lead rules put down by the EPA. And they actually cited an EPA study in this article. And according to them, it affected 18 million Americans.
Wow, that's a bunch.
It is a bunch. And the violations included failure to properly test for lead in the water, and failure to report contamination to residents, and then failure to properly treat the water to avoid lead contamination.
Yeah. But
so those are at least two of the three are in my opinion anyway.
Yeah. But it's not just lead that we got to be on the lookout for. There's pesticides, fertilizers, bacteria, viruses, rust.
So Kelly, so if you had to guess, according to, there's another article is in essence.com, and they cited this CNN article, and they kind of listed out the cities based on a map that CNN had in there, and so they kind of listed out the top 7. What would you guess the worst, number 7 worst city?
7th worst city.
Yeah, where would you guess it would be? Pick a state. Pick a state. I'll narrow it down for you. You got one.
California.
No, not California.
Texas.
No.
Okay. Florida.
Think corruption. Think
corruption. Oh, I would have to say Illinois.
Oh, very good guess. But no, New Jersey,
okay.
Number 7.
Jersey, there we go. Okay.
Trenton, New Jersey came in at number 7.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I could probably, I should have seen that coming.
Yeah.
I didn't guess it though.
Well, they put Hoffa's body underneath the water treatment plant. There's the problem. So.
Well, they might be using his body as the filtration device.
All right. Number 6 was Boston. So if you live in Boston, so Trenton and Boston, 2 pretty big cities, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, pretty big.
Baltimore.
Okay.
So far, none of these have surprised me.
No.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Milwaukee.
We discussed that one, yeah. Milwaukee.
Yeah. Milwaukee. Number 2.
Laverne and Shirley would be very sad.
Yeah. Number 2. Kelly got this one. Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
And the number 1 city, this actually surprised me. This has the worst water testing in the United States, according to The Guardian. It's Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Well,
that one kind of surprised me. I would have expected it to be like Detroit or somewhere like that.
Yeah, but all that water from Pittsburgh is flowing down to Pennsylvania.
It's flowing down to Philly, yeah. Maybe so, I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
So, the biggest thing, so how can people sort of deal with this, right? And there's a ton of water filters out there. Oh my gosh, Kelly, when we were looking at it, I bet there's several thousand different ways you can filter water. It's insane.
Oh yeah. I was just looking at a big box store website, and myriad numbers, and different sizes, different capacities, different filtrations.
Oh,
you can kind of get lost in the whole thing.
Yeah, it's totally nuts, and it's crazy. But so I thought, just to kind of break this down for people, we would start with by sort of segmenting it into 2 things, right? So you've got what I call whole home filters, which are water filters that they go right on the tap, right where your water's coming in. They take care of the whole house. Okay. And then I've got what are called point of use filters, which sort of is everything else. right?
Okay.
So, that's, I lumped everything else into point of use. So you would basically be filtering the water right where you were going to use it. And obviously there's pros and cons to both of those, but just to talk about them for a minute, whole house filters are typically installed by a plumber. Sometimes, if you have a water well, sometimes the water well company will install these filters for you. And usually, if you have a whole home filter, it's because you have a water well. And they can range in different setups, or I guess different installations, right? So they have the high flow filters, which just basically pass through. There's no storage tank. There's none of that. And then they've got sort of slower flow filters, or filters that filter the water more slowly, and those do have storage tanks and things. So these can be very simple setups. They can be very complicated setups. But the bottom line, the thing to remember, if you're going to go down this road, is you install it right where the water comes into your house, and it filters everything in your house. So it filters the water flowing through your pipe and to all your fixtures.
Quick question, Brian.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a whole house water filter and a water softener?
So a lot, actually. A water filter basically filters out contaminants, right? And a water softener, all it does is soften the water. It basically it deals with the lime and the things that are in your water that are heavier minerals. They're not necessarily, I mean, I guess technically they're contaminants, but they're not necessarily a problem for you. Although, I guess it depends on the expert you talk to, right?
So could you put those two systems together?
Yeah, sure. Of course you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
So if you go down the road of a high flow rate filter, again, there's no storage tank, there's nothing for that. Those typically filter out about 50 to 60 contaminants, and depending on the setup you get. So those are typically only what's called a 3-stage filter, which means it's got 3 filters in it. And the first stage is almost always a sediment filter. And that's true of almost every type of filter we're going to talk about. If it's got more than one stage, the first stage is almost always a sediment filter. And we'll talk about different reasons for that as we kind of go down. The second stage is usually some other type of technology. It could be what's called a carbon block technology, where basically it's a block of carbon and it's got really, really small pores in it, and it forces the water through those holes, and the particles get trapped in the holes. And sometimes the second and third stage are both carbon filters. In other cases, it uses a different kind of technology. There's another technology out there called kinetic degradation, which uses copper and zinc, and it's complicated. And it reduces contaminants and things. So usually that's the type of whole home filter that you'll see. And that does filter out a lot of like the heavy metals, like we talked about lead, mercury, those types of things. And it does get some of the organic, or the bacteria, viruses, fungus, things like that, but it doesn't get all of them.
Right.
And so there's another type of filter out there that people either use independently if they don't care about the lead, the mercury, and all the other stuff, right? Chlorine, fluoride. Right. They're not interested in filtering all that stuff out. If they're like, you know what, my tap water does a pretty good job of that, I just want to make absolutely sure there's no viruses or whatever in it. Then they have something called a UV filter. And basically the way this works, it's just a UV light that actually is put in line in your water supply, and that's literally what it is. It just shines UV light down into the water, and it kills actually 99.9% of all the organic things that could be in it. So,
what's that old saying? The best disinfectant is sunlight.
Sunlight. That's exactly what it is. I mean, all you're doing is blasting it with sunlight.
Yeah.
And it is the only filtration that's approved by the FDA for this. So that's kind of an interesting caveat to that. And so you can combine that with a traditional whole home filter, or you can just do that independently. It just kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And there are some downsides to the UV filter. It's only able to remove microorganisms that And it doesn't remove other contaminants like heavy metal, salt, chlorine, what are called VOCs or volatile organic compounds,
right?
Things like that. Those are like your pesticides and things. So it doesn't remove any of that. It does only remove the microorganisms. Another downside is that it's only effective if the water's clear. So this would be an argument for actually putting this behind, a sediment filter or something like that that's going to get the gunk out of the water, because if the particle blocks the light, it can't kill anything that's behind it.
Yeah, so you want to have the last stage, probably, I would think.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's like being on the dark side of the moon, right? You can't,
right, right.
You can't get there.
You want to filter out all the rocks and berries before it gets before you get to the UV side.
Yeah,
killing the little bugs. Yeah.
And then the last thing is that it does operate off of electricity. So if you're looking at this as a survival thing, or if you're a prepper, this probably want to either have a backup electric supply, or this may not be the right solution for you.
Yeah, that's true. What was that movie where they used the mirrors to shine the light into the tomb? I was thinking of
Raiders of the Lost Ark. I have no idea.
Something like that. But I was thinking you just put this me knowing enough to be dangerous, using a series of mirrors to shine underneath the countertop there. Yeah, that would work.
Kelly's installed glass pipes into his house, and he's using a series of mirrors to get the sun
that'll
down.
work. That will definitely work. Just polished bronze or something, and we can just use that.
Nice. All right, well, let's talk about point-of-use filters, because these are pretty much, this is what most people are going to buy. Okay? And these are designed to be installed anywhere from a shower head, there's faucet mount filters, under sink, which is what we bought recently for our drinking water. You've got countertop filters. I've even included, pitchers in this, where you fill the water pitcher and it filters down, okay? Right. So anything where you're going to filter right before you use it, I include it as a point-of-use filter, okay? And as you can imagine, they're in every size imaginable, and all different complexities, a bunch of different filtration methods. The one I want to talk about, though, is the reverse osmosis water filter. Okay. And the reason I want to talk about it is because after doing all the research, right, so the pitchers use something called a gravity filter, where basically the water goes through carbon granules, and it very loosely sort of filters out the contaminants. The faucet mount ones are a little better because they use the water pressure to push it through a carbon block that's a little bit tighter. It filters out a little bit more. But the RO filter, at least in my opinion, is the most effective. Okay, and normally these come in 5 stages, which means there's 5 different filters on them. Sometimes you'll see a 4-stage, and really 4 is kind of the minimum you would want. But most of them come with 5 stages, and the first 3 is the same as the whole house filter. So the first 3 are a sediment filter, and then whatever those second 2 stages are that you want. One's almost always a carbon block, and then one is either a carbon block or some other type of technology. Right. And then stage 4 is the RO, or the reverse osmosis filter. And it does exactly what it says, right? It instead of being a osmosis process where, you put something in the water and it over time it, combines with the water, or I should say it doesn't combine, it dissolves or disperses itself equally within the water. This does the opposite. Basically what this does, it uses the water pressure to shove the water through a membrane, and the membrane has extremely small pores in it, like so small that microorganisms, all kinds of stuff can't go through it, but the water can. Right. And so the water, the pores block all those contaminants and keep them on the outside of this membrane, but it lets the water pass by. Now, the downside of that is it takes out pretty much everything. All you're left with is literally H2O. Right. And so it goes out of that, it goes into a tank, right? And so there's a 5th stage on most of these that will actually filter it coming out of the tank, just in case there's any kind of residual taste or anything from the tank itself. But the one we bought has a 6th stage. And the sixth stage is actually a filter that adds stuff back to the water that we want.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, so it adds back the minerals some of them that we stripped out that maybe we didn't want to strip out in the first place. So it helps pH balance it, adds some alkalinity back to the water, which makes it not only taste better, but at least according to some experts, makes it better for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so you're going to start your own bottling plant?
Yeah, let's do it. We get 75 gallons a day out of this. So most of them you could get either 75 or 90 gallons a day out of. The cool thing with the one we got, though, is you can buy a separate component for it, and it tees off. So the way it works, there's actually a separate water faucet that comes off of the holding tank that's under the sink, and that separate water faucet is the filtered water, and that's what we use. We fill up our cups, we fill up a gallon pitcher for the kids, whatever it is, and but it's got a line that goes from the tank to that faucet, okay? You can buy an add-on where you can tee off that line and run a separate line to your refrigerator.
Wow.
So you can have RO processed water filtration going to your refrigerator as well for your ice and for your water that's right in the refrigerator door and things like that. So that's a good pro for it, I guess.
Definitely.
So ours was an under-sink RO filter. You can buy the countertop ones. They're more expensive, and basically the way it works is you just fill them up with water, and it processes them and puts them in a little holding tank, and you use it right from the tap.
Right.
So if you didn't, if you weren't handy or you didn't want to do an installation, it does take about 2 hours to install one of the under-sink ones, or at least it did for me.
Right.
We've got granite countertops and some things that make it a little more complicated. But I did put a video out on housefluent.com, and it's also on our YouTube channel. It's a detailed how-to video. It's got instructions. It shows everything I did, and you can follow along with it, or people can follow along with it if they're interested in installing their own. Hopefully, it'll help them out.
Yeah, that sounds really really cool. When I found out that you were doing this, I realized that I was negligent in replacing my water filter in my refrigerator.
Yeah.
So I dug around and I found an extra water filter, and I went to replace it, and that turned into an adventure. But we can save that for later.
Well, look, if you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting app, hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it a ton. That does help us out. Tweet at us at housefluent. We do monitor that channel. Use the hashtag MyHomeQuestion. We try and get to those on the show. You can find us on Instagram. If you want to go to Instagram, you can actually see there's a video my wife posted I shoved up in our stories, and when I came home from work yesterday, Kelly, because we are essential, so we do get to go out and and mingle a little bit.
Socially distant mingle, yeah.
Yeah, socially distant. So I've got a funny story to tell you in a minute about that. But anyway, when I came home, my wife said, "Hey, we baked muffins." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." So we sat down, and they handed me my pumpkin muffin, my homemade pumpkin muffin. That was, I don't know if you know what yesterday was. It was April 1st.
Yes.
Aware of that. And something happens on April 1st. It's called April Fool's Day.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
They baked a pumpkin muffin, okay. Everybody had their pumpkin muffins, and they were happy as could be. And mine was full of garlic and pepper. And so anyway.
So you got to use that water, right?
I did, yeah. Carrie filmed me eating it, and she shoved it up on her Instagram channel. I moved it over to our stories so people could enjoy it. But yeah, it's pretty funny.
That is good. That is good. Yeah.
But yeah, no. So yesterday, welcome to the social distancing world. Yesterday, I went to do a inspection on a house that was under construction. It was in a gated community. Okay, so I pull up to the gate. And, of course, so see if you can picture this. So there's a guard shack, and then there's two lanes. One goes into the neighborhood, and one's coming out of the neighborhood, okay?
Right.
The one going into the neighborhood, the way they set this up, the one going into the neighborhood goes right next to the guard shack, which makes sense, right? You want to go up to the window and talk to them. The one coming out of the neighborhood is on the other side. Okay, so what they did was they put cones up so you could not pull into the lane right next to it. You had to pull into the far lane to get to the guard shack. So if you're watching on the podcast, so you've got the guard shack, you've got the lane that would normally go next to the guard shack, and then you've got people that would normally leave, or residents. So they blocked off this first one, and you just have the road for the residents. And of course, the guy in the guard shack has to scream at you at the top of his lungs so you can hear him from 12 feet away.
Right.
You have to scream back, and it probably took me 20 minutes to convey who I was, why I was there, what I was there for. I had to back up so he could see my license plate number because his camera couldn't pick it up. It was a train wreck. I mean, it was. Meanwhile, people are backing up behind me. People are backing up, waiting to get out of the neighborhood. Just like, come on, can we please get past all this? I'm ready to move on with life.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We're gonna.
All right.
Go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say. My funny story was I went to go replace the water filter in my fridge. Yeah. And it's down at the bottom of the fridge. So.
All right. Is this your "I know just enough to be dangerous" segment?
Well, we can make it that big. We can make it be that.
All right.
No crazy fixes here. It was just one of those things where I set out to do a simple task, and it turns into an hours-long ordeal. So
that never happens.
It never happens. Always happens to me. So I go and it's real easy. You just press the filter in, and it disengages, right? And it's supposed to. There's a little bit of water leakage that comes out of the filter.
Oh no.
That's normal. So
how much water came out?
A lot. So I press the thing. The water comes shooting out. I wasn't expecting it. I can see the water just pooling underneath the fridge. So I grab the new filter, shove it in there, slam it shut, and the water stops. But I still have this gigantic puddle of water on my floor. Yeah. So I go, okay, well, I get some towels and I start wiping it up, but I know there's water underneath the fridge that I got to get to. Okay. So I have to pull the fridge out. Normally that would not be an issue. But the fridge is kind of set into a kind of a built-in area. Yeah. There's cabinets above it and stuff, and it's very, very small clearances around the fridge. Okay. So it took me a long time to pull this fridge out, right? I finally pulled it out, and to get to where I can clean up the water, clean out back behind the fridge, because nobody ever goes back there anyway. Okay. So I took that opportunity to do that. And then I go to put the fridge back in. Sucker won't fit.
Nice. So
it came out, but it wouldn't go back in.
So what tool of choice was used to put the... And let me ask a better question. Do you still have a wall left?
I do. No damage to the wall.
No damage to the wall. How about the cabinet?
Cabinets are good. Fridge is undamaged. So we're
sounds like it ended well.
Success. It did. But yeah, I went through all try to shim up the front because the back seemed to be higher than the front. So I thought, well, maybe if I can shim the front, I can get the back to drop down a little bit and slide it in. But it's a 500-pound fridge, with food and ice and who knows what else in there. Yeah. Hard to do. Finally, I remembered, hey, I can look at the manual and see maybe there's a way to lower the feet. Right. So I can slide it in. So I go and I look up the manual online, get the serial number of the fridge and all that other stuff. Manual basically says, be sure to level the fridge. Doesn't say anything about how to do it.
Why am I picturing like a floor jack and a 2x4 involved here?
Well, you know those little inflatable bags that you can buy at the hardware store? Yeah. Little shims. I've tried using one of those and doing it, and that works somewhat.
How much food came flying out?
Oh, none. We're good. We're good.
This isn't nearly the calamity I expected.
Well, still, I mean, it's something that should have taken 2 minutes took, over an hour. Yeah. So evidently I managed to pull the front of the grill off at the bottom of the fridge. Yeah. And I could see the adjustment screws for the feet, and I was able to lower it, push it in, raise it back up to where it was supposed to be, and everything turned out well. But like I said, whenever you do something like that, set aside a little bit of extra time because you will inevitably need it. Yeah. Oh, I also managed to vacuum out all the old dog hair that was in there on the condenser on the fridge, so that was good.
Oh, that is good. Yeah.
So
make it work.
Saved myself a little bit of money. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was my adventure.
Very good. Well, what else do you have going on at Casa de Lamont shelter-in-place projects?
Well, I cleaned the gutters out the other day.
Yeah.
That was good. I recently got some new grass put in, and we've had a lot of rain here over the past couple of weeks and days. And I've noticed that I used to have these little pop-up drains that were in my front yard. So the water would come off the roof into the gutter, through the downspout, and out into the yard. Yeah. And I couldn't find one of them. So I ended up pulling up half of my yard to find where they had covered up the pop-up valve and had to clean that out again. But yeah, just a little project like that, things that shouldn't take too long, but end up taking way longer than they should. Nice.
All right, so what's your give us your final thoughts on water filtration here. What did you learn today, Kelly Lamont?
What did I learn today? I would like to have a water filtration system.
I think we're going to progress. I think we will end up with a whole home filter at some point.
That's kind of where I was leaning. Have it right on the main line coming into the house. That way I don't have to screw with it. They're expensive, though.
They're not that bad. So you can get one. I mean, they're expensive if you're going to have a plumber install it and do all that, right? But you can get them. I mean, you can spend as much as you want. Right. It's like you can get a good one for between $300 and $500. Which
here's the question though: how much are the replacement filters, and how often do you have to replace them?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So a lot of that depends on use, right? And so, like our little RO filter that's under the sink, we actually have 6 filters, right? We have 6 stages. So the RO membrane every 2 to 4 years, depending on use. Okay. The alkalinity filter, which adds the calcium back to the water, that we're going to end up replacing probably twice a year. The first 3 stages about twice a year, and then there's another 5th stage that filters stuff coming out of the tank, and they say that's once to twice a year. Kind of depends on usage. The one thing I don't like about the water filter we got is it doesn't have any kind of indicator on the filters themselves as to when it might be time to change it. And by the way, that's really common. I didn't see any systems out there that did. And so that's kind of a little bit of a frustration. But
is there a way maybe to put like almost like a miniature water meter on that line going into it so you can measure how many gallons are going through the system?
Yeah, you probably could. They've got smart meters and things that work off of magnets and all kinds of stuff where you can do that. But there probably is a way if you wanted to rig that up. We're keeping it simple. We just marked on the calendar, hey, every 3 months we're changing this one, every 6 months we're changing that one. But
that's probably easier.
Yeah, the whole home filters though, right? So that's only the first 3 stages. So really, if you're a heavy usage person, a lot of those, when you get to the filters that are that size, a lot of them will do 1,000 gallons. So, you can kind of judge that based on your water bill. You kind of know how long it takes you to get to that point. And a lot of the whole home filters will actually have a clear first stage. So instead of it being opaque where you can't see, it's actually a clear reservoir, and you can see when it's starting to look kind of cruddy and change it out. If you go the UV route, just need to replace those once a year, typically.
I do know on those UV bulbs, you got to be very careful and not touch the glass. You just have to touch the end.
Boom. Yeah. Better.
Yeah. So. Another question on these whole house systems.
Yeah.
How does that work if you have a sprinkler system or a pool? Is it filtering that water too?
It is, depending on how you have it set up. So a lot of people, so you asked earlier about water softeners, right?
Right.
If you go to add a water softener to your house, you should really engage a plumber, because what you don't want to do is soften the water going to your spigots, right, to your hose bibs on the outside of your house, because you'll kill your lawn.
Oh, yeah.
It's horrible for your lawn to have the soft water like that. And so what they'll do is they'll actually redo the plumbing in a way that that water won't be going through your filter. Okay, and so that becomes more complicated and
right.
everything else, right? So if you do put a whole home filter on there, you know, you do it yourself and you don't engage a plumber to say, hey, I want to include and exclude these things. Yeah, absolutely. Everything is going to be filtered, right? It's gonna
yeah, we're just kind of wasting the point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and a filtration system is different than a softener. But, you know, you got to kind of think about it this way, too. If you're going to filter out things, right, you're filtering out chlorine, you're filtering out all that stuff, some of that stuff isn't necessarily all that great for appliances and your yard and all that anyway. So,
True.
Yeah, so it just kind of depends.
Yeah. So get someone out there that knows what the heck they're doing.
That's always a great suggestion. Get somebody out. Don't do what Kelly does. Don't do what I do.
Oh, come on. I'm not that bad. Maybe I am.
I'm with you on projects. I always have to set 2 to 3 times the amount of time I think it's going to take aside, because on top of, you know, you open up this wall or you do this and you find something you weren't expecting. On top of all that, I have 4 kids and they want to be involved, and I want them involved, right? But you know, it just adds more time to it. So think about those things when you're going to do these.
Yeah. You know, I saw something on, I think it was on Facebook the other day, a video, and I thought immediately of you.
Yeah?
It was this dad who set up, you know the show American Ninja Warrior? Have you heard of that show?
I do not know that show.
Well, it's like they set up this giant obstacle course.
Oh, I do know that show. Yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And they got contestants race through. Well, he set up a miniature version in his backyard for his kids.
Nice.
And specifically his 3-year-old daughter. And she rocked it. She did great. You have to look that one up. I think you'll be inspired.
Nice. I'll check that out. Well, on that note, let's wrap this thing up. Okay. So, thank you for listening to House Fluent Inspections. We hope you enjoyed the podcast today. Remember to tweet at us at HouseFluent, or go to housefluent.com to book a home inspection, read articles about stress-free home buying, home selling, or home ownership. And that will be changing soon to be focusing more on the home ownership and projects and things that you can do around your house. Thank you today to our producer, Kelly Lamont, and music today and every day is provided by Purple Planet Music. So, Kelly?
Yeah?
What do we have going on this week? It's shelter-in-place coronavirus time. We don't have a whole lot going on.
No, we don't have a whole lot going on. I got some stuff going on starting tomorrow. I'm continuing on with my home inspector education.
Right.
So I've got some online classes I'm going to be taking for the next 72 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to that for sure. So
I'm sure you are, yeah.
All right, well, I hope everybody has a fun, safe week ahead. Shelter in place, and remember, get a water filtration system.
Do it.
Do it.